Welcome into Steelers Talk. I'm your host, Jack Sperry, and today we've got some great news and rumors to cover around the Pittsburgh Steelers here. Of course, they're still going over their offensive coordinator search. We'll be diving into that a little bit today. But our first topic today, we're going to be talking about TJ Watt and a prominent Steelers writer in the city of Pittsburgh that thinks the Steelers need to trade TJ Watt. I'm going to tell you why that's a terrible idea here in about 30 seconds. And then also, Tyler Boyd, Pittsburgh native, current Cincinnati Bengals wide receiver, wants to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Going to tell you what he said to the media just a couple days ago. But before we get into today's news and rumors content, for all the real ones out there, you guys know the name Matthew Peterson. He is our host of the Browns channel here at Chat Sports, and he just had one of the worst takes that I have ever seen in my entire life in regards to the Defensive Player of the Year discussion. This is what Petey had to say the other day. He said, Myles Garrett is clearly the Defensive Player of the Year over TJ Watt. Watt has been easily the most overrated defensive player of the last 10 years, and that shows with how much better the Browns' defense was this year. Easy decision for the NFL voters. I was just taken aback by how disrespectful this quote was from Matthew Peterson, our Cleveland Browns host here at Chat Sports. So if you disagree with Matthew Peterson, let's show him who really deserves to win Defensive Player of the Year this year. Spam TJ as many times as you can down there in the comment section to show the Browns who that DPOY should be in 2023. And speaking of who should be the Defensive Player of the Year here, TJ Watt, the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette's writer Ron Cook says that the Pittsburgh Steelers should look to trade TJ Watt during the 2024 offseason. This is what Cook had to say about trading the superstar edge rusher. If you don't look at them as a legit Super Bowl contender right now, and I would consider trading TJ Watt. I don't think they will because I think they always look at themselves as a Super Bowl contender, even though they haven't won a playoff game in 7 years. But would it be outrageous to consider the possibility? You want their honest answer here, Ron? Yes, it would be ridiculous. It would be straight up outrageous to trade TJ Watt, who is at the top of his game right now, should be the Defensive Player of the Year. He's still relatively young. He's not an old man by any stretch of the imagination. And the idea that the Steelers roster just straight up stinks and you need to just blow it up, I think is completely asinine. You got a bunch of great young talents like Keanu Benton, Joey Porter Jr., George Pickens, Jalen Warren on this roster, and then a bunch of veteran presences as well. Alex Highsmith, Minkah Fitzpatrick, Cam Hayward, and that's on top of what TJ Watt brings to the table in terms of what he brings to the stat box, man. I mean, this guy should easily have at least 3 Defensive Player of the Year trophies in his trophy case, including this year. You look at this year's stats, 19 sacks, 4 forced fumbles. That's not even counting the touchdown that he had on a fumble recovery. That's not even counting an interception that he had this year. I mean, the numbers that this guy has put up over the last half decade in the National Football League is absolutely astronomical, and he's also the only player in NFL history to lead the league in sacks 3 times. His brother JJ didn't do it. Aaron Donald hasn't done that. Reggie White has never done that. Nobody in the history of the National Football League has done what TJ Watt has done to this point in his career. And at age 29, I mean, this guy's not an old man. He's in the prime of his playing career. Why in the hell would the Pittsburgh Steelers consider trading him when, in my opinion, you're just a good quarterback and a good offensive coordinator away from competing for titles? I mean, you just look at the Steelers this year. They had Matt Canada plaguing their offense with terrible scheme. You had below average at best quarterback play with Mason Rudolph, Kenny Pickett, and Mitchell Trubisky. If you get those 2 things right with the defensive talent that you have and the offensive talent that you have, this team's going to be competing for Super Bowls. So the idea that it's time to completely blow it up and trade TJ Watt, I think is completely asinine. And if anything, you should extend him. I think that, he's got 2 more years left on his contract. I think if you extend him this offseason, you can lower his cap hit and you can go out and get even more talent during free agency. Via trade, it opens up your opportunities. And honestly, if I'm Omar Khan, the Steelers GM, I am doing everything in my power to get an extension done for TJ Watt because I still think he has easily 4 years left of really elite production in the National Football League, and I want to lock him up for as long as I can and as long as he's playing at Defensive Player of the Year levels. So let me know down there in the comments section. What should Pittsburgh do with TJ Watt this offseason? Should they give him an extension? Is it time to blow it up and trade him? Or do you just want to chill, do nothing with his contract, and maybe address it next offseason? Let me know down there in the comments section. This is going to be the pinned comment on today's show, so YouTube's going to throw you an ad break here in just a couple of seconds. When that happens, take advantage of that time by answering today's pinned question. So now let's talk about the Steelers' offensive coordinator search here, where, of course, Zach Robinson was the first one to get an interview request, and now the Steelers have interviewed former Cardinals head coach and current USC Trojans quarterbacks coach Kliff Kingsbury to fill their vacant OC spot. Now, when you talk about Kliff Kingsbury, in terms of an offensive play caller and the offense he likes to run, it is a true air raid, all right? It's shotgun heavy, spread formations, 4 wide receivers on the field, really trying to get the defense to show their hand in terms of the coverage that they're in pre-snap, and then allowing the quarterback to work from there. So it's definitely a lot of shotgun. It's definitely a lot of spread concepts. In terms of the run game, it's pretty much exclusively inside zone and counter. That's what you see with the Lincoln Riley offense. It's what you see with Kliff Kingsbury's offense when he was in Arizona, when he was coaching Kyler Murray and company there in the desert. And then also when he was there in Arizona, Kyler and that Arizona offense, they led the league in screen passes every single year. That's another thing that Kliff Kingsbury kind of hangs his hat on. And coming up here, I'm going to give you my take on Kliff Kingsbury and whether or not I think he's a good fit for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But first, let's have a word from our sponsor here at Game Time. And if you're thinking about getting tickets to the big game in Vegas in a few weeks, then use today's sponsor, Game Time, to help getting those expensive tickets just a bit easier. For all of our listeners, if you use the code VEGAS100, it's right down the bottom right of your screen on the Game Time app, you'll get $100 off to get your butt to Allegiant Stadium on February 11th to watch the NFC and AFC champions duke it out for the Lombardi Trophy in the biggest game of the season. Not only is Game Time offering you that $100 off to the big game, but they are also the fastest growing ticketing app in the country, period. Game Time boasts a lowest price guarantee on all tickets to any event, so it's the only ticketing app that you need on your phone. Buy tickets in a matter of seconds, 2 taps, and you're set. Tickets are also sent directly to your phone, so you never have to dig through your email to get your tickets. Another great feature. Snag the tickets now without the stress with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code SteelersChat for $20 off your first purchase. Again, it's right down there in the bottom right of your screen. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code SteelersChat. One word, all caps, for $20 off, and then use code Vegas100, one word, all caps, for $100 off your tickets to the big game in Vegas. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. Now, for me personally, guys, I just don't see Kliff Kingsbury as a good fit both culturally and scheme-wise here with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I mean, you got a guy like Mike Tomlin, who is a true old-school type of coach, hard-nosed coach. And then this guy, Mr. Kliff Kingsbury, who runs an air raid college-style offense, is going to come in here. And the guy that's literally nicknamed Coach Bro, that's the guy that Mike Tomlin is going to hire as his next OC. I just don't see it, guys. I'm sorry. Kliff Kingsbury, I think he's a decent offensive coordinator candidate for some other teams. Cough, cough, Philadelphia Eagles. I think that'd be an interesting fit. But for the Pittsburgh Steelers, I don't see it as a cultural fit, and I really don't think that the air raid is something that Kenny Pickett would really thrive in here on the National Football League level. Now, some other names that are being thrown around that we haven't really talked a whole lot about on the show in terms of OC candidates. Arthur Smith, the former head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, is a name that's starting to get thrown around in Steelers circles. He's somebody that's worked with bigger running backs in the past with Derrick Henry, had a lot of success with him in Tennessee. It's why he got that Falcons job. And guess what? The Pittsburgh Steelers have a good, big back, and Najee Harris might be a decent fit there. Don't really love the way Arthur Smith utilizes his personnel. Doesn't really get the ball in the hands of his best players. That's one of the reasons why he got fired there in Atlanta. So he would not be my first choice by any stretch of the imagination. And then another name that's been thrown around is Alex Van Pelt, the former Cleveland Browns offensive coordinator. He runs kind of like a second-generation, old-school West Coast offense. Not really interested in that either. There's a reason why the Cleveland Browns let him go at the end of this season. And now we'll shift to the last topic on today's News and Rumors Roundup here on Steelers Talk, which is that Pittsburgh native Tyler Boyd, current receiver for the Cincinnati Bengals. He's hitting free agency this year, and he says he wants to sign with the Pittsburgh Steelers. This is what Boyd had to say about returning home. I love Coach Tomlin. He's probably one of the realest dudes in the sports business. Obviously, I played at Pitt, and I had a lot of run-ins with him and talked to him just about football. His personality is more like a father figure. It's a great connection, but who knows? All right, so you look at Tyler Boyd's career in this league, and I think that if you bring him in as your number 3 wide receiver, he'd be one of the best number 3 receivers in the National Football League on any team. I think that he's super dependable. He's rarely hurt. He's a good route runner. He plays with good size. He can play inside in the slot. He can play outside if you need him to. And I'm definitely in on bringing home the Pittsburgh native here, former Pitt Panther, to the Pittsburgh Steelers. It seems like he's interested in coming home. It seems like they could get a pretty decent deal done. They would definitely have a role for him in this offense, and I'd be super stoked to see this guy return home to Acrisure Stadium and once again play for the city of Pittsburgh. That'd be absolutely fantastic. That'd be one of the biggest stories in Pittsburgh sports in 2024, and I want to see it happen. Now, the projected contract, according to Pro Football Focus, is that it would cost the Steelers 2 years, $8.75 million per season, and that's definitely something that I'm willing to pay. That's a pretty darn good contract for a high-end number 3 wide receiver in this league. You get the versatility that you're looking for. You're looking for somebody with the dedication to the franchise. I definitely think this would be a slam dunk home run of a signing. I think it could really round out the Steelers wide receiver core next year. Now, let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Should the Steelers bring Tyler Boyd home? Yes or no? Let me know down there in the comment section what you think, and I can't wait to see what your responses are down there in the comment section. Now, before I go, I do want to give some shout-outs here to the people that followed me on Twitter. You can go give me a follow at Jack_Sperry for a shout-out of your own on a future episode of Steelers Talk. So shout-out to Frank, Harley, Rockwell, John, 5-Star Only, X-Zombie, Brenda, and Roger. Thank you guys so much for all of your support. And that'll be it for today's show. Make sure you guys click that subscribe button right now for more Steelers news and rumors coverage all throughout the 2024 offseason.